Hi, and welcome to part 2 of our video. That was like something that happened with the camera and all of a sudden it shut off, so we have to make you a part 2. Long story short, now we're starting with 400 grit wet in a bucket. Let the paper soak for 15 minutes. That softens the paper up so that it actually sands smoother. And as of now, we have this completely 220 grit, all numbers and nipples completely sanded smooth. And you can see that the headlight's no longer yellow except for the edges here, which we're going to sand this with 400 grit paper. So next step is a wet sand and wet sand all the way till we get the same smoothness, all the way, no glossy surface at all. That way the clear coat we're going to put on here is going to stick. So I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Alright, now I'm going to show you how basically easy it is to just wet sand the light. Wet paper. I like to use small circular motions on the flat areas. And as you can see now, there's no yellow left on the lens anymore. And then I wipe my progress down with a paper towel just to see where I'm at. While it's still kind of half wet, you can basically start to tell if it's smooth enough or to your liking. And I've started sanding some of the edges, but not completely finished with it yet. And that's basically all there is to it, just sanding all that old yellow clear coat off. And by applying at least 3 coats of clear coat on it now, these headlights should be good for at least another 20 years before we have to redo them again or buy new ones. And saved us well, at least $200 a light from GM is what it is now. So be right back with you. Alright, another little trick too is that these little crevices right here are really hard to get with sandpaper. So you take your red 3M Scotch-Brite, or pretty much any brand, but I like the 3Ms, and you'll take and you'll fold it using your thumb, plastic stick, spatula, whatever you need to flex that Scotch-Brite to get in there, because you need to sand that crevice in anything that's plastic so that the clear coat will stick to it. Because if you try clear coating over anything that's glossy, it'll just fall right off. And a lot of people have this misconception that you can take headlights, you can sand them and polish them. Yeah, they'll look great until the sun's on them for, a month or two, and they start to turn yellow again or get cloudy again. You're not going to believe what these are going to look like when they're done, but long story short is these will look almost as good as they did when they were brand new. And the only reason this particular one isn't going to look as good is because the lens has some slight cracking in the plastic from the heat of the light bulb. Other than that, this thing will look flawless. So I'm going to save a lot of money for one. The satisfaction of doing it yourself is number 2. And it's not really very high cost. The one thing that most people make a mistake of is they try to go down to the local auto parts store and buy a can of clear coat in a rattle can. Well, you can try that if you want, but I've had a lot of people come in to my shop and tell me that look what I did and it cracked. Well, a lot of the rattle can clear coats have lacquer thinner inside of them, or acetone, and that particular solvent is very hot and will actually melt the lenses of the plastic when you try to spray them. If you use non-automotive grade clear coat, the clear coats themselves dry slower, the solvents aren't as hot, and basically it'd be the same stuff you'd spray on a car if you're going to paint a car. And if you don't have access to a paint gun and all that to do it yourself, find a local body shop and just ask them how much they're going to charge to clear coat these once they're at this stage. And you might be surprised that it might not be as bad as you think it is, because all they're going to do is basically tape off the housing and spray the clear lens. I mean, I would imagine that most places would probably do it if they're going to spray something else at the same time, anywhere from $50 to $75, and you don't have to deal with it. Just do all the sanding yourself and take them into your local body shop. Basically at this point now, I'm going to finish up everything with a Scotch-Brite pad, and then next step is I'm going to show you what they look like in part 3 after they've been completely clear coated, and you'd be ready to be amazed.